Have you ever been told no when you asked a school for parent email addresses? Because the real question here isn't whether you'll hear no, it's knowing how to respond when the people you're serving are worth fighting for. When should you accept the no, and when do you owe it to the families you serve to keep asking? This is the situation Lois found herself in, and today she's going to share with us what happened next. What's up, guys? My name is Sean Cantrell, and I lead the Schools and Sports program over here at H&H Color Lab. And today I have with me Lois Alberts from G. Michael Photography in Spring, Texas.
Hello.
So one of the things that we're talking about often is partnering with photographers to help schools and families. Sometimes those partnerships are tested when something important is standing in the way of serving those customers. And today, I'd like to share a story from Lois, who owns G. Michael Photography, about a situation where obtaining that data became critical, some of the challenges that she faced, and ultimately what happened because she refused to stop at the first no. So Lois, thanks for being here and sharing your experience with us.
Yeah, great. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's get started here at the beginning here. What kind of data are we talking about, and why do you need that information?
Well, as anyone who photographs schools knows, photo day is highly data driven. We need that data to prepare our systems and our staff for being able to efficiently run photo day, printing the camera cards, and then also it helps in delivery of the portrait packages and organization of the yearbook export and all of that. So it's just, I can't do a photo day efficiently without receiving data from the school. And the information I typically ask for is the normal stuff that helps me get ready for photo day. The student first name, last name, the grade, the homeroom, their student ID number. That stuff's critical in order to get organized for photo day. But if I want to market to the schools, I have to ask for additional information, usually parent contact information, email and phone number. So I have been asking for that, and I do get it from most of my schools, but not from all of them.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of studios can empathize with, is either limited success or no success at all in getting the data.
Mhm.
And so you had a situation here where when you were requesting the data, they said no, right?
Mhm.
Um, help me summarize, what were you trying to accomplish for your schools and families by getting the information beyond just being organized for school picture day?
Sure. Well, having that parent contact information does a lot of things. First of all, it does help the parents and it helps the school too. But let's be honest, it helps me too. If I can't communicate with the parents, then that's going to impact my ability to market to them and make sure that they know about photo day and make sure they have the opportunity to purchase. So that is one of the factors that I'm always thinking of. We work really hard preparing for photo day, having staff available on photo day. I'd like to get, compensated for that by having parent purchase. But that's not the only reason, and that's not going to be a reason that drives the school to
Right.
cooperate with you. Maybe a little bit, due to rebate, but ultimately they're going to get some rebate whether sales are great or not. So that wasn't the issue I wanted to focus on. The other things that we really need that data for are communicating with parents after photo day, delivering their digital downloads, all of that kind of thing is a part of servicing the school and servicing parents. And I'm not really able to do that well if the school won't provide me with that contact information. Then there's also the matter of security, which was ultimately the piece of the puzzle that turned this one school around. So that's the kind of information I've been asking for. And those are some of the things I do with that information. But there was this one school that just refused to provide the information.
Got it. So what you're saying is, by getting that email, the parent email and phone number, contact information, using that information, you've seen a direct tie to how well your sales go for that school, as well
Absolutely.
as how many support calls you and the school need to service those parents.
Absolutely. And that's a big one. I mean, that's a big one for the school, and that's a big one for me. If parents don't know about Photo Day, because the school just sends out one newsletter about it, the prepaid flyers go home, but not all the kids take them home. Parents don't know about it. The very first kind of support phone call I can think of, I'm going to get in that situation, is after Photo Day. I'm going to get a lot of phone calls, and the school may as well. I didn't know about Photo Day. How can I
Right.
order? I don't want those phone calls. There's a way to avoid that. Plus, even if I take those phone calls and I fulfill those orders, that's a lot more work on me. It's chasing my tail after Photo Day. And we're all too busy to do that. So I want to cut down on that. I want to get that information to them ahead of time. So yes, having the correct information cuts down on phone calls to the school, which they should be happy about, and it cuts down on phone calls to our studio
Mhm.
significantly.
This is something I think a lot of studios would appreciate is in that they're not used to if they're not used to asking for that contact information in addition to
Mhm.
the name, grade, student ID number stuff, is there's this fear that they don't want to, first of all, they don't want to pester customers. That's a whole nother conversation we're not going to get into.
Right.
But secondly, they don't want to upset the apple cart by asking for the information. So how are you typically asking for this information? Because for most of your schools, like you said, they're saying yes and they're
Yeah.
sharing that with you. They're trusting that with you.
Hmm.
How do you usually reach out to say, this is the information that I need?
Yeah, I before Photo Day, usually about 3 weeks or a month before Photo Day, I have a letter that I send to the appropriate person at each school, who I know is going to be able to pull the data for me. And my letter lays out very clearly what data I need, both for students and for staff. And in the section about the data I'm asking for students, I list the things that I want, including parent contact information. And beneath that, I have a little blurb in italics that explains, that I've included in there for several years now, that explains why the data is needed. I used to say this is why the data is needed. Last year, I changed it to say this data is required for us to service your school.
Hmm.
And I did delineate some of the reasons why in there.
Hmm.
And that, for a couple of the schools that I was not getting that data for, that seemed to turn the tide. So I have been submitting or requesting that in my official data request that I send to each school. I have a form letter, which I believe I've provided to H&H in the past. Y'all probably have it in your
Hmm.
library of forms, and you're welcome to share that. So I asked for it in my data request letter.
Nice. And this particular school that said no, you went through the normal channels on how you request that.
Yes, I did.
Right.
And they were pretty adamant that they weren't going to do that. They specifically said they did not want me marketing their families. They would handle that. So I tried to live with that for a couple of years. I made sure I got to them information to include in their weekly newsletter for 2 weeks leading up to school. The prepaid flyers go out. I had a photo day, so I tried to play by their rules. But there's no question, sales at that school were much less than at other schools, other
Mm.
similar size schools with the same demographic. So it was very obvious it was impacting sales. It was
Yeah.
also very obvious that we were getting more phone calls afterwards, support phone calls. So this year I just decided um, we're going to do something about that. But there was one really key thing um, that made me realize I had to do something about it.
Mm.
Um, this this spring, the head of the school contacted me and said, "Are you marketing to our parents?" And I said, "No, I'm not, because y'all don't provide me the contact information." And
Right.
as I was saying that to her, I realized, you know what? They are getting some marketing. They're getting purchase confirmations that are automatic after they prepay for their order with a credit card. They're going to get a confirmation.
Hmm.
We all know that I think that's federally required. I think you have to provide someone a purchase confirmation when they pay by credit card.
Well, I
Um,
know I'm pretty disappointed if I don't have one.
yeah, exactly. So they were getting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, when
And
they
I also know
ordered,
that you're using our systems with Imago. You can set it so that if somebody logs in and you don't have that information, you can capture that and start continuing the conversation from that point, knowing that they're at least interested in ordering
yeah,
pictures.
right. Yep. But so when they ordered, they were getting a purchase confirmation. If they ordered a digital download, they were being prompted to provide their contact information. So they were going to get that notification
Hmm.
when the digital download became available. So the phone call from the head of school made me realize they've asked me not to communicate with parents, but yet there's some communication that has to happen.
Right.
And
But
they weren't
the
under,
parents expect to happen. Right.
yeah, and it has to. If I'm going to offer and deliver a digital download, then I have to be able to send that to them some way. So
Right.
the head of the school was just aware that they had said no marketing. But then she found out from a parent that they were getting emails from me. So she was upset that I was marketing when they told me not to. And I
Mm.
realized, this is something that's going to require a conversation because I have to do some of these things.
I think that's important right there, Lois. You saw this take a turn, right? You trying to play by the rules. Um, and there's an outspoken parent, or a handful, and the head of school is trying to do the right thing and clarify what's happening. You can see the situation's not going well, and right there, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
That is so smart, so smart.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I do try to do with my business. And uh, I figure I'm the expert. They may be the expert at running a school, but I'm the expert at running a school photography business. And we can all get ourselves into a lot of trouble if we give in to our school's requests or demands, if because they're thinking of their situation. We have to think about our situation. And I like to remind myself sometimes that I'm the expert. I'll
You
try to
are.
work with the school, but and this was a perfect example. I tried to work with the school. I tried to do what they wanted, but then this phone call happened and I'm like, you know what? It looks like I'm not doing what they asked because parents are getting some communications. I've now got to act like the grown up in the room here and have this conversation and explain what's happening here and do it in a manner that the school sees a benefit.
Right, and why it should be happening. Exactly.
Yes.
So just to underscore this for the folks watching, what would have happened if they hadn't shared the data? What historically has been happening and what would that mean for your business maybe?
Yeah. Well, of course, lower sales and higher customer service inquiries, not just those phone calls about how do I order late, but with some of the marketing that I do, it's never to market our studio. We don't market Santa photos or other things that we do at the studio. We only use the marketing to market to provide information about that school's portrait events that we're handling.
Mm.
Um, so some other things that I do, kids get photos. The teachers distribute the portrait packages. The elementary kids usually are pretty good at getting them home, but the middle school and high school kids, not so much. So 3 weeks
Not my
later, a
kids.
month later, 5 months later, mom's asking, I never got my photo.
Yep.
So I built into my marketing that about a week after we deliver the portrait packages to the school, I figure they should have gone home or should be going home at that point. So I do a communication to parents, hey, your photo order is going home through the school so that they know to look for that. So that cuts down on those calls later. I never got my photos. And there's so many things like that that I've built into my marketing that really reduces phone calls. So without that parent information, my ability to service parents was really significantly reduced. And it got to the point where I thought I'm not doing anyone a service by leaving it like this.
Yeah. So it was a negative impact on your business, on the parents of the school and on the school's capacity to help deal with picture day when they've got, 10 other things they need to handle at that moment.
Correct.
So at some point you made the decision to take a different approach, saw things were going differently, need to have a conversation.
Mhm.
Talk us through how that conversation went and any follow-up you did with that.
Well, in this case, because I knew this school, I decided I didn't want to have a phone conversation about it.
Mm,
There could have been some instances where I might have decided to do that, but I really wanted to lay out the facts for them very concisely so that there couldn't really be any argument about it. Um, I know personally when I'm speaking with someone, there's interruptions. I may go off a path I didn't intend. They may ask questions and we get off the path, and then it's harder to stay very focused. So in this case, I decided to do a very well crafted email explaining what my request was and giving them reasons that explaining what I would do with the data and how it would positively impact their photo day and their parents' experience. Um, of course, I did not mention that it will hopefully increase sales. That's a plus for me, but I knew that's not going to be the selling point for the school.
right.
The security and reducing inquiries from parents was going to be the two key components.
Yeah, I think that's spot on is the increased sales. That's a benefit of you. That's what's important to you, right?
Right.
One of the things. That while it is ultimately important to them because it impacts your resources and your ability to serve the school, at
Right.
face value, it's not important. So I think you're
No.
smart to not focus on that and focus on how this information actually helps you help them as the professional, as you say. So
Mm-hmm.
you sent me a copy of that letter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at that. So this is the letter that you shared with me, and I've scrubbed the names to protect the innocent or guilty,
Mm-hmm.
however we want to look at it. But take us through here. We don't need to read it word by word. We can share this
Yeah.
later on, but take us through how you decided to craft this letter.
Well, I wanted, of course, a nice little introduction explaining what the issue was here and what I was going to be requesting when I sent them my data request. And then I talked about in that second paragraph, I got a little bit more into the meat of it. And I wanted to address the fact that they said no communication from me, but I wanted to lay out to them some communication is unavoidable, as we discussed earlier. They're going to
Mm,
get those purchase confirmations, and if they've purchased a digital download, which is a very, it's one of our top packages that we sell, then I have to be able to deliver that. Um, and so that's what I just wanted to let them know by way of that second paragraph that some communication is going to happen, whether
mm.
they want it to happen or not, it has to. Um, then in the next section, I just decided to enumerate the key reasons why I was asking for the parent contact information
Mm. Yeah,
and
I
put,
I really, I mean,
mhm.
these first three, I'm not surprised by. They're probably, I'm glad you shared those. I think they should be on here. But I think the fourth one, I didn't think about until you showed this letter to me. I think that's spot on. Is better communication, um, could ultimately mean fewer retakes, fewer interruptions, fewer distractions
Mhm.
and pick from school activities. I think I missed that one, but I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely right.
but I did order them in um, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the order that I thought was going to have the most impact with the school because, well, I like to do that because I know people have short attention spans. Or sometimes they read one thing and that's it.
Guilty.
So that student safety, I thought was, especially in this day and age, was probably the piece that was going to have the most impact with any school and for sure this school.
Yeah.
Um,
So without naming names, who did you direct this email or letter to? What role or who's the right person that you sent this to that you thought was going to be the right person to see it?
Well, that will vary by school. I mean, you have to know your schools, who's pulling that data. This person kind of does two roles. He's the business manager, and
Hmm.
he's also the one that pulls the data. So sometimes you're requesting data from a secretary, and she maybe doesn't have the ability to make a decision like, yes, we're going to share this information.
Right.
So you may have to go up above them first to some key person, and that could vary by school. You're going to have to do a little, talking to people at the school and ask who makes this decision. Probably the person you request the data from is the person to start with.
Mm.
I'm going to be requesting data, a little bit more data than you're used to me seeing, and there's some good reasons for it.
Mm.
Who do I need to talk to get approval for that? So, it's going to be different at every one of my schools. I can't just say, oh, check with the business manager, because at every school, they have different departments and different divisions of labor. So it really depends.
Yeah. No, I love how you asked that question of I'm going to be asking for a little bit more data and it's important and I want to make sure I have that conversation with the right folks. Who should that be? I
Yeah.
love that. So, you made your case to
Hmm.
the person, the decision maker, whoever that is. And then how did you follow up?
um, I didn't have to. I
Oh,
was, yeah, I was, oh gosh, I can do a lot of tough things, but when I see an email come in that, when that's been sort of a contentious thing, I will let
mhm,
it sit there for like half a day because I'm afraid to look at it. And I saw his
right.
email come in about an hour later, and I'm like, oh, I can't look right now.
Within an hour,
Yes,
you sent the email and
yes,
within an hour they responded.
yes,
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
yes.
I don't know, I would be terrified.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be angry or just say, no
Right.
way, we've told you before, no. Basically, and so I didn't have to follow up in this case. I would
Yeah.
have followed up if I hadn't heard anything from him, but I knew that I knew when I sent it that I would hear something. I didn't think it was going to be that quick, and I didn't think it was going to be the response that I got. But if I hadn't heard anything, then I would have followed up. I probably would have done a phone call at that point. Email's great. I thought that was the right way to proceed in this instance for this original request,
Mhm.
but I would have followed up in person to pursue it further. If I needed to schedule an appointment to go and see someone, I would have done that because I was bound and determined this time that they were going to understand the importance of this request.
Yeah. So they responded within an hour.
Mhm.
And they said
It
what?
was very short. Basically, he said, that makes great sense. Thanks for sharing this information with us. I think I'll be able to pull that information for you this year. And I, I thanked him. Uh, and I sent him a follow up. I did a little research about their school administration software
Okay.
because I knew he had difficult, it's really not difficult for schools to run these data requests
Mm.
or to run these exports. But some schools make a mountain out of a molehill. And I knew he kind of struggled with getting me the data, even the limited data they were providing me. He always struggled with getting it in the format I needed. So I sent him back an email saying, hey, this is probably what you should run the report out of your system. Look for the format it in this
Nice.
way. And he basically responded back later, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. And you had me at security.
So number one really was number one. All right.
Yes. And that made me laugh. I'm sure he was thinking of that. What's that Tom Cruise movie where he was a sports agent and you had
Yeah,
me at
I
hello,
think it was
Renee
Jerry
Zellweger's.
Maguire. You
Yeah,
had
Jerry
me at
Maguire.
hello.
Yeah, he said you had me at security. So, yep.
So you had me at hello. You had me at student safety. Okay. So why for those of you that aren't connecting the dots here, Lois, help us understand why is student safety the number one that you pecked rightly on why that's so important. How does student safety play into emails and contact info?
Yeah. Well, I've always used ImageHost and Imago, and those of you who use those services through H&H, you may be aware. Some of you may be aware. Some of you may not be aware that if a parent is going to Imago, to look for their child's image in a second cell event or gallery cell event. If they don't have their student's password, which you may have provided to them on an insert or on the RTD label on the package, if they don't have access, immediate access to that access code or password, then they can ask the system to provide the access code. And they do that, the system does that by asking them for their email, correct? Or does it ask for email and
Mhm.
phone number? It asks for their
Email.
email.
Yep.
And if the Imago system finds an email attached to an image, or finds that email address attached to that image in the gallery event, then it knows that that is an approved person, like the parent. That parent should be able to have access to that image.
I'm going to pause you right there because
Yeah.
that's the exact phrase. That parent should have access to that gallery. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there's a situation where it's grandma and she puts in her email address, I didn't get that email address from the school. It may be fine for grandma to order photos, but maybe it's not. But anyway, if grandma puts in her email address, the system's going to say you've got to contact the studio for approval or to get the student's access information. So that's the security piece. I was able to share with the school that no one can get access to each student's password protected gallery
Mm-hmm.
if there's not a match between the email they input when they try to get that information or try to get access and the email that you provided me. That's a first line of defense for security.
Yeah. No, I love that because that's a feature that you're right. We rolled out with HH Image Host a number of years ago, and we have an Imago today. That when we rolled that out, what we were hearing from studios that we're working with was parents don't read, and I
Nope.
don't know if that's changed. I don't think that's changed.
No.
But when I try and share the access code password securely, they miss it, whatever. But they still find out where they can go see their pictures. They just need to get their access code. I'm getting buried with requests for access
Mm-hmm.
codes. And it's taken a lot of my time away from actually serving this school or the other school I need to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't have a good way of knowing is that person someone that should have access to that information.
Right.
The negative example here is if there's some estranged parents, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the school said we don't want one parent to have access, but the other parent's okay. And that puts you in a really delicate situation in order to navigate. By having this information, it reduces all those requests that are coming at you, and it automates controlling, make sure who has access,
Yeah.
so that it cuts down on how many calls and emails you're getting to only those that are the exceptions. And then when I talk with folks now that are leveraging that, they said, I wish I had a number for it. I'm a numbers guy, and so I'm a little disappointed I don't have it on drastic reduction on how many calls and emails they're getting.
Yes.
But then those that are saying, hey, we actually need to work with the school to make sure you should have access, and here's why. And then it seems to be that's a really amicable, and understandable why they're doing that, and they appreciate the level of care and concern and security you're providing for that gallery. It seems to be a good thing, not a negative
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yep.
Nice.
And that really confirmed exactly what I thought, that the security was a big issue.
And I think that's true for a lot of schools. When I talk with different studios across the country, that is usually the biggest hesitation, especially in this day and age, on data security and privacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's why with the Imago platform, we went through our SOC 2 compliance just to make sure that we're showing how seriously we take data and
Yeah.
privacy and security, and as your partner, you're doing that as well. So, man, Lois, that had to be so satisfying after taking the time of just going through it and saying, all right,
Yes.
oh my
Yes.
goodness.
It was. It was very. I mean, there were a few high fives exchanged between Greg and I. So
Yeah.
it felt like a big win.
Yes.
But I wanted to touch on something else you'd mentioned.
Yeah.
Don't make it. There are many other schools that I work with that I've been asking for this data and I've been getting for years, and I didn't have to go to this level.
Hmm.
If you include, you can't get what you don't ask for. So
Bingo.
I never had to go to this level with most of my schools.
Yeah.
I started asking for parent data probably 15 years ago, and I've been getting it at most of the schools by just asking the person that runs the data for me. Um, so it doesn't have to be that big of an issue. We talked, at Summit and boot camp, we talked to a lot of people and they're like, well, they're afraid to ask.
Mhm.
Ask,
Mhm.
ask.
Yeah, it's going to be a no until you at least ask. I mean, it can't be a yes until you ask.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. And there are
Yeah.
times where I ask for it. The first thing I do when a secretary or whoever's sending me the data, as soon as it hits my computer, and I just had 3 emails come in today where different schools were sending me their data. The
Mhm.
first thing I do is I open that data and I check to make sure that they have it in Excel format and that they provided me with the information I asked for. Because there are times, even though a school has always agreed to send me the data. When the person runs it, they're busy and they forget to include a few fields. And I stop right there and I'll say, thanks, I'm sorry to bother you, but you didn't include teacher or parent email.
Yeah. Yep. Remember those
And
little
I asked
student
them to
ID
rerun
numbers
it.
you have? We need that ID number for that
Mm-hmm.
card. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Lois, that is absolutely a win to be celebrated. I'm glad you high-fived, and I hope you celebrated more, because that is a direct impact to your business and to that community, to that school. So my hat's off to you. My hat's off to you. I think one last question I want to ask
Mm-hmm.
here as we're starting to wrap up is you sent this, you high-fived, but you shared this win with David and myself, and I'm so glad you did.
Mm-hmm.
But why, to help for the folks that are watching this video now, why do you share this story with us? What are you hoping people will take away from this that are watching?
Oh gosh. Um, well, I certainly hope it helps someone else at least feel um think for themselves, hey, yeah, I need to ask for it too. This could impact my business as well. So I hope it just encourages some other studios to advocate for themselves with their clients. Um, and it's going to impact, I promise if they can get this and they learn how to use it, it's going to impact their business in many ways. It's going to increase sales. It's going to cut down on customer service calls. So I wanted, I've worked with y'all a lot on this kind of thing. I want people to harness the power that's there and available to them. Um, and then I really feel like we need to be the experts. I talk with lots of photographers.
Mm,
I don't know how, but I've had a lot of people call me over the years. I guess through my involvement with H&H and Summit, and teaching at boot camp. So I have people follow up with me all the time. And a lot of people ask me questions that I'm like, I want to say to myself, but I want to say to them, but I don't. I'm like, you don't have to do everything a school asks you to do, or you don't have to give in to everything a school demands.
mhm.
You're in charge of your business. You get to run your business the way you want to run it. And so I realized I was letting them kind of control how I did my business, and it was having some negative impacts. And I'm just a lot more satisfied with my business. Um, I feel less frustration when I feel like I've done everything I can do to do my business as well as possible, and I'm not
Mm,
taking orders from my schools. I'm the
yeah.
expert and I'm servicing them. And you know what? It comes with a lot of respect when you can do it that way. They learn to trust me and we become more like partners instead of me being an order taker just doing work for them.
Yeah, Lois, I think that's huge right there. You said something. You said trust and partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And when those are words that are coming out of your school's mouth talking about you, you know you're not just a vendor that's going to easily come up on the chopping block at the next RFP opportunity. You're building a legacy with
Right.
that community. That's huge, and I love that
I
you're using
agree.
those words there because that's important in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lois,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing this story. I think what stands out to me this wasn't really a story about data. It was a story about advocating for customers and not giving up when the first answer wasn't what you hoped for.
Yep.
You kept the focus, you navigated it in a way that you were trying to do the right thing in a right way, but you kept the focus on the families and the schools that you serve. You communicate why it mattered to them,
Hmm.
and you stayed engaged until a mutual solution was found.
Yep.
So, kudos, my hat's off to you. Um, I I think this is a really great reminder for all of us. Then we understand the impact behind the requests that we have for the schools. We often are able to find opportunities and solutions that we might have otherwise missed. So for everyone watching, if you're not getting data or you're scared to, afraid of upsetting the apple cart, I think being respectful, helping them understand the importance to them is something that you can try, right? I think just asking for that information and helping them see why, using some of those questions that Lois shared in this video are a
Hmm.
great thing that you can try. And then let us know how that goes. We'd love to hear how that's working for you. So, Lois, thank you again for your partnership with us and for taking the time to share your experience with us today. I'll find a way, probably in the link at the bottom of this video, to share a link to that data request email if that's something you want to try and use for when
Hmm.
it escalates. But initially, just start asking for the information, and hopefully this is helpful for you and helpful for you to serve your communities. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.